Any evidence, as far as you're concerned, of a major turn in the cycle for gold?
Well, you know, we've heard an awful lot of rhetoric over the past week or so about death crosses and, you know, cyclical changes in gold prices. But to my mind, nothing's really changed for the past 2 or 3 years. We're in a range. The base of that range is around about 1525. I'm still probably mildly bullish on the gold price as long as we're above that key level. And until such times as I see any evidence to the contrary, I think the odds are probably steered towards a global mishap, as you put it.
What about the drivers then? We know that the Indian demand, for example, for the physical metal, and this is obviously one of the biggest markets, a bit weakened by the rupee against the dollar, but the global economic data is still pretty uncertain. I mean, you would think that might be pushing the price up a bit.
You would, but you know, as I say, I mean, there's a link between volatility and the gold price. I think when things are much more volatile and equity markets are falling quite rapidly, you do see a little bit of a pickup in the gold price. At the moment, I think there's what I would call a little bit of a calm, you know, sort of an eye, you know, we're in the eye of the storm, so to speak. And, you know, I really don't see too much downside or upside in gold at the moment.
And you talk about the equity markets. We've had a rally since the beginning of the year. And is it, as far as you can see, that the money just coming out of the gold markets short term to go into the equity markets? We're possibly at an inflection point for those as well.
I think there's an element of that. I think when you see the FTSE at multi-year highs, you see the Dow at multi-year highs, and you see the S&P at multi-year highs, I think there's a certain area of complacency with respect to the gold price. And let's not forget, we have seen a significant rebound in the dollar index and the US dollar as a whole over the past couple of months as the euro sunk lower and the pound has sunk lower. And I think when you look at the gold price, it's very easy to look at it just in isolation against the US dollar. It is actually higher over the past 6 to 8 weeks against sterling, against the euro, and to a lesser extent against the yen as well.
You mentioned volatility there. There was a correlation with the gold price when it was very volatile. Now that we're less volatile, that the correlation seems to have gone away completely.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, to my mind, you talked about global mishaps earlier. I still think the bias is for monetary easing going forward, not only from the US Federal Reserve. You had Bernanke last week essentially saying that he's going to keep his foot hard on the accelerator. You've got the Bank of Japan. You've got the lousy economic data that you've seen out of Europe and out of the UK over the past week or so, and I think at some point that is really going to initiate further easing policies from the European Central Bank, and that's really going to push gold higher.